Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to have you here. And I'm excited to present this machine. We don't see domestic sewing machine rotaries too often. And this is a very special machine that belongs to Tammy and Ron from Arkansas. I don't think we get machines from Arkansas very often either. So if anyone wants to type in any interesting facts about the state of Arkansas, go ahead and do that. And if you're the first to do it and type something in really interesting and cool about Arkansas, I'm going to send you something special. Now, most of us that are over 50 years old, maybe even a little bit younger, are familiar with the phrase, let's bring out the good silver. Has anyone ever heard that saying before? Let's bring out the good silver. You've got some special friends or some guests of nobility that are coming to your home, and you want to really spruce it up a little bit. So you dig into your buffet or your cabinet and you pull out the good silver. You set up a beautiful table. You make a lovely meal, and then you're ready for your guests to arrive to delight them with that level of hospitality. Well, the domestic sewing machine company understood hospitality. They understood that they wanted to stand out from the pack. And so they were the only sewing machine company that was established in the 1800s that instead of electing to put on their eye candy on the machine, all of those chrome pieces that everyone takes notice of, instead of using chrome, or instead of using stainless steel, they said, we're going to bring out the good silver. And so if you didn't know it, the domestic sewing machine company is the only company in history to appoint all of their parts of the sewing machine that are eye candy, as many of you refer to it, those shiny parts, with silver plating instead of with stainless steel or chrome. That was a major step up for any sewing machine company back in the day. It cost them more money, but they didn't care. They wanted to bring out the good silver to set themselves apart from everyone else out there. And they were one of the very earliest companies to do this, coming on the scene right around 1864. 1864 is when the domestic sewing machine company was established. And from the very beginning, they said, we're going to limit our production to about 25,000 sewing machines a year, which was unheard of, as Singer and other manufacturers were rolling out well above that number in one production group run. In one production group run, Singer would make 25, 50, 75,000, 100,000 sewing machines, and Domestic said, nope, we're going to do them by hand. We're not going to mass produce them. We're going to limit it to around 25,000 sewing machines a year by hand. And guess what? Everything that shines on that sewing machine, from the needle plate to the back part of the upper tension to the presser foot adjuster, the needle bar tower, everything on it, the balance wheel, the bobbin winding assembly, the stitch length adjustment, which on this machine, you can adjust the stitch length forward and back independently. Did you hear me? On this sewing machine, not only is it silver plated, but you can adjust your stitch length forward and reverse independently. Now, the stitch reverse is only going to have a maximum of a setting of 8 down to 1, whereas the forward sewing, you can go all the way up to, I believe it's 14. Let me double check. No, it's up to 11. Up to 11. So another innovation by the Domestic Sewing Machine Company, that unlike other sewing machines, where if you wanted to back tack to finish off a stitch line, you had to stick with the same reverse stitch length that you did on the forward. There was no way to adjust it legitimately. On the Domestic, they said, we're going to give you control over your back tacking. So if you want to do a shorter back tack to lock off that seam, you can do that. If you want to do a longer back tack for whatever reason, you can do that. They wanted to give choice to their customers with a machine that was all handmade and that was silver plated. So they really set themselves apart. And they were developed by an inventor by the name of William A. Mack, just like the truck, Mack truck. William A. Mack was the innovator of this very, very unique and rare silver-plated machine. And they were renowned for their quality and reliability. Now, if you've never lifted a Domestic rotary, they are the epitome of a boat anchor. Incredibly heavy machines. And when they started out in 1864, they were a mom and pop business. They were a mom and pop business. They were not officially incorporated. That didn't come until about 5 years later. About 5 years later, after they were founded in 1869, they officially became incorporated. And sadly, partly because they chose to take everything at a different level, really stepped things up, their operating costs were considerably more expensive than other sewing machine companies then. And so around 1921 to 1924, they slowly were taken over by the White Sewing Machine Company. And that's where, if you're ever looking for a difficult part to find for a Domestic sewing machine, you can look to the rotary equivalent on the white side, and you're going to be able to directly match those parts. So don't go down a rabbit hole just on the Domestic side. Go down 2 rabbit holes with Domestic and White, and you should be able to find the part that you need for that particular rotary style machine that you're looking for. Okay? So I'm going to remove this beautiful piece of silver that Susie has protected in a cabinet in our living room, and we're going to learn a little bit more about this particular rotary machine. Let me first of all take a look at the live chat and just see if I want to say good morning to anybody, okay? Hold on just a second. Oh, I love it. Teresa, you're incredible. That's a really cool fact. I didn't know that. I did not know that. They invented cheese dip? So cheese dip, if anyone's ever been to a party, and Susie and I are getting ready to host a party. We're getting ready to host a party up here in the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, out here in southeastern Kentucky. We're going to have a number of guests come, friends of ours that are in Middlesboro. Some neighbors of ours as well are going to be coming to this special party. We're going to be offering the meat portion and the good silver, of course. We're going to be offering the meat portion, which is going to be Black Angus ribeye steak. So if any of you are in the audience and you're traveling through Kentucky and you're part of the Cow Country family, let us know that, and we'll extend an invitation for you to come to this really special cookout where we're going to be pulling out the good silver for some really good friends of ours that are in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. And we're going to be hosting a Black Angus ribeye steak cookout it's going to be this Saturday, actually. This Saturday, so you don't have much time to get ready. So a little bit more about the history of silver and the significance of silver. Let me give you a little bit of history on that. See if I can pull that up real quick. So first of all, bringing out the good silver for special guests dates back all the way to antiquity. So we're talking way, 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 way back. They were already recognizing that bringing out good silver was a way to honor your guests. And it was a way of also displaying social status and wealth. So if any of you like to buy silver coins, you like to buy gold coins, any of that sort of thing, if you're a collector of sorts, that's a way of demonstrating your social status and your wealth. And it's probably, with the craziness in the world right now, it's also a secure way to have some of your wealth diversified as well. So a little bit more on the history. In ancient Egypt and Rome, silver was synonymous with status and divine favor. So if you had silver back in the ancient medieval time in Egypt and Rome, it was said that you had favor from God, or in their case, gods, plural, that you had favor. And by the Middle Ages, rulers like Charlemagne used silver spoons at official banquets. It was a visual measure of wealth. Now, the guest spoon, if you've ever heard that before, was from the 16th and the 17th centuries. Before silverware was standardized and widely made available, guests to formal dinners back in the 16th and 17th century would bring their own personal knives and their own personal spoons. Now, Susie and I found in traveling through Middlesboro in Tennessee that we sometimes need to bring our own spoons. And I'll let Susie elaborate on that. It's kind of funny. So a highly decorated silver cutlery set, or the apostle spoons. Somebody Google apostle spoons and share a little bit more about that, because I read that, but I don't know the details of that. So tied to silver are something also called the apostle spoons. And they were gifted by godparents, apparently, back in the day, and became a prominent status symbol. So apparently godparents, is that the case with apostle spoons? Godparents would give spoons to newborn babies, to their grandchildren. Does anyone know anything about that? If you do, type it in the live chat. Type it in the live chat so we understand more about that custom of grandparents giving spoons. I've heard of sterling silver spoons, and someone was raised with a silver spoon in their mouth or something like that. Am I getting that right? But somebody type more of those details in the live chat so we can be smarter on those customs that grew up through the 16th and 17th century, where spoons were gifted to newborns. Yeah, that's kind of cool. And also, if you didn't know it, silver has a natural how would you put it? It kills germs. Silver automatically, by its qualities and its makeup, is a deterrent to germs growing. So a lot of the folks back in the 17th century would also use silver platters and silverware because it was a natural deterrent to getting sick. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that. Yeah. Well, there's so many other customs and traditions surrounding silver. And maybe that's part of the reason that the domestic sewing machine company said, we're going to bring out the good silver when we make our sewing machines so that we stand out from everyone else. And who knows, maybe the owners of domestic sewing machines back in the day were actually healthier because as they touched their sewing machine and they made contact with those different silver points on the machine, their hand had a natural resistance to picking up germs. Do you buy that? Apparently, there's some truth behind it. The gospel station that I listen to in the workshop all the time, and neighbors driving by with their windows open can hear me singing gospel. They sell something called Silver Biotics on their channel all the time. And apparently you can drink this stuff, you can apply it to your muscles, you can put it all over yourself, inside and out, and it kills germs. So if you didn't know that, buy more silver and put out the good silver to stay healthy. Yeah. So a little bit more music, and then I will give you a walk around this really special machine that belongs to Tammy and Ron from Arkansas, where, according to Teresa, a dear friend of ours, Teresa and Tim, they have the only diamond mine probably in the United States, because I know there's diamond mines other places in the world, and they invented cheese dip. Susie, do you think when we do our cookout this Saturday, can we have cheese dip? Can we do that? It's up to Susie. She's kind of in charge of the hospitality side of things. Yeah. All right. So a little bit more royal, bring out the good silver type music for you. I hate interrupting Mozart, but can I ask a favor of all of you in the audience? I see we've got quite a few folks in the audience right now. Would you be so kind, when you get a moment, to take a click on the screen to like this live stream? That would help us out a lot. All right, back to Mozart and bringing out the good silver. All right, I'm going to pause it. Mozart is a guy that really likes to kind of stretch it out a little bit. You know what I mean? So if I wait until this concludes, some of you will be nodding off probably and getting ready for a blanket and a cookie. So I'm going to pause the music for a little bit and just give you a little walk around this silver-plated domestic sewing machine. And the specific model is a 153. Now they also made another version of the 153. Does anyone know what they did differently with that model? If anyone knows what they did with it was made by White and also by Domestic 153. They made a different type of machine. How was it different? Type that in the live chat if you would, please. All right, I'm just going to say some quick good mornings. It looks like our live chat participation is really, really small today, which is okay. We've got Tim and Teresa from the great state of Wisconsin. We've got my lovely wife, Susie, and that might be it. Yeah, holy mackerel. So we have a lot of folks sitting in the shadows today. That's okay. We were actually told by one of our recent guests that drove in from Alexandria, Virginia, just a couple hours away from Washington, D.C., with those 5 sewing machines, that she sits in the shadows all the time. And a couple of times has popped into the live chat. And I should probably embarrass her by sharing a picture of her. We took her and a couple of other guests that came to visit us. We had a couple of folks drive up from Atlanta, Georgia as well to bring a couple of sewing machines, one of which is in a cabinet. And so we've had all kinds of folks driving into Kentucky to bring sewing machines. Far places away in Tennessee, Alexandria, Virginia, near Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Georgia. So any of the naysayers out there that said when Scott moved from his benchmark in Wisconsin, no one is going to pursue him any longer. They're going to find somebody else to go through. Well, that ain't the case. We've got folks that are willing to make the drive into Kentucky. We've got folks that are willing to ship to Kentucky. And it's because at Cow Country, I do it like no one else in the world. And that's why Felicia drove all that distance, almost 8 hours, one way to bring those 5 sewing machines. I'm going to show them to you in just a little bit. But in the meantime, I'll show you some of the pictures we took of Felicia at a really lovely spot that any of you that come to visit us in Kentucky, we'll take you to the same place. We took Teresa and Tim all the way up to about 2,400 feet to the Pinnacle Overlook. And boy, did they love that. They brought their dog, Rutger, as well. Rutger had a chance to check that out with us. And it's a lovely, lovely overlook where you can see 3 states with one glance. You can see Virginia in the middle, you can see Tennessee to the left, and you can see Kentucky to the right. And it's really quite a lovely, lovely spot to go. Quite a lovely spot. So I'll see if I can pull up some of those pictures of Felicia. Yeah, let me see if I can do that. Let me scroll up a little bit. I think I have them. Oh, here they are. Here they are. So Felicia is a retired government worker. That's all I'll say. She's a retirement government worker, and I'll let your imagination run wild since you know that I've been gifted things from the FBI. I've been gifted things from folks that work in other parts of the government that we can't talk about on this channel. Can't talk about it, but we'll say that she's a retired government worker that had a high security clearance, and she blessed us by driving 8 hours one way to bring 5 sewing machines. And this is Felicia right here, sitting with a girl that you might recognize. You might recognize her. Aha! Two very beautiful ladies. Two very beautiful ladies. And that's on a bench right at the Pinnacle Overlook area. See if we can find another one here. Another shot of the ladies there. It's kind of almost identical to the first one. Ah, the wizard is being silly. That's Felicia and I having a little bit of levity, a little bit of fun. What a beautiful lady. What a lovely visit we had with her. We had a chance to eat out at a couple of restaurants when they came into town. Oh, here's another shot. There's the backdrop of the Pinnacle. A little bit hard to see. And right behind us is Virginia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. And here's Susie and Felicia reaching around a very big tree. I don't think they were touching hands on the other side. Isn't that a lovely photo? And that's the difference between other YouTube channels and being part of the Cow Country family. When you're part of the Cow Country family, you're family in a real way. We care about each other. When there's issues where some of us might be facing health challenges or other things like that, we bring those family members into the fold and we ask them to lift up some prayers and some thoughts. We recently had a little bit of a scare with Susie. Some of you already know this because we brought you into the circle and let you know it. Susie and I, after walking up to the Pinnacle twice with two different guests that came to Kentucky. I'll show you a picture of these other folks as well. I think I have pictures of them. I might have pictures of them. Hold on. At any rate, we had walked up to the Pinnacle. It's not a huge walk, but it's a grade going up. It's a grade coming down. And Susie had done it twice with the different folks that were coming into Kentucky to drop off sewing machines and to visit with us. And we went out to a Chinese restaurant in Middlesboro. And when Susie went to stand up, her left leg would not straighten out. Now try walking with one of your legs half bent, frozen in that position. You can't do it. And so I had to assist her out of the restaurant as she was hobbling in excruciating pain. And then just a few days ago, we went to the emergency room and got things looked at. And then she's going to be going next week to see an orthopedic doctor to get things assessed further as far as her leg. But that just shows you we're all vulnerable, aren't we? We're all vulnerable. We can all have issues crop up. And thank goodness for a good family that can keep us in thought and prayer when we're facing some of those challenges, right? We also brought our new friends into the circle as well. They brought some machines that they wanted to offer to us for sale, and we did purchase some of them for our personal collection. So I'm going to see if I can find a picture of Karen and Greg as well. And Karen and Greg, like us, live on top of a mountain over in Tennessee, I want to say. Yeah, they're over in Tennessee. And they were a lovely couple as well. We loved getting to know them. We went out and had meals with them. They went out and had meals in the community as well. They went to Shades. They went to the Pine Mountain Resort as well. And they went to a number of other places and had some nice food in the Middlesboro area. And I think they left feeling like they were kind of leaving a real nice area. I don't know. Maybe they'll tell us they're going to relocate. I have no idea. but this is them at one of the local restaurants, uh, enjoying a real good meal. This is Karen and Greg Springer. Karen and Greg Springer, and they drove about 3.5 hours. I think it was almost 3.5 hours to bring some Pfaff sewing machines that they wanted to downsize on. Yeah, there they are. Aren't they a beautiful couple? And Karen was joking with me. Karen was joking with me when I was sharing the details about Susie's predicament, and they were promising to pray for Susie and keep her in thought. Karen said, "I've got to share with you that I'm a little bit older than Greg, and he calls me a cougar." So I had to think about that for a second. Why? Wait, what? Why? What? Why is he calling you a cougar? And then I remembered an older woman that captures a younger man is called a cougar. Did y'all know that? See how much you learn on this channel? You learn so much on this channel. What a lovely couple. A lovely, lovely couple. See if I can show you a picture of them out at the Pinnacle real quick. Here's a picture of Greg and Karen. We took them up to the Pinnacle where you're at about 2,400 feet and you're overlooking, again, Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee. And this is a picture of them. And also a salute to our friend Greg, because he is a Vietnam War veteran. He's a Vietnam War veteran as well. But I can promise you one thing. I'm going to promise you one thing right now, and you can call me on it. If you are part of the Cow Country family and you arrange a visit out here to see Susie and me, we're going to bring out the good silver. I guarantee it. We're going to treat you like royalty. We're going to take you around to all the places, introduce you to everyone that we can, and you're going to leave feeling like I am something special. Because you are, if you're part of the Cow Country family. All right, so let me walk you around this machine. Finally, I've been blah, blah, blahing for 35 minutes. How did that happen? Yeah, we know how it happens. And I'll finally walk you around this silver-plated domestic that belongs to Tammy and Ron from Cheese Dip Country, apparently. From Cheese Dip Country out in the great state of Arkansas. Yeah. So a little bit about this machine. Number one, when it's operating, when it's running, the balance wheel is going to be turning the opposite way that you would expect it to be turning. So if you're trying to bring the bobbin thread up on a machine like a rotary, you've got to turn the balance wheel to the rear, not to the front. We're so accustomed to turning the balance wheel to the front. But on rotaries, you got to go the opposite direction, right? You got to go the opposite direction to pull that thread up, and also in the sewing process as well. It's also going to have a different style bobbin case, and I'm just going to do a quick little service on this one to show you. It's going to mimic the look of a long beak shuttle system, but it's not. It's not a long beak shuttle system. It's simply a rotary bobbin system, and the cleaning is going to be pretty similar to what we do with other type bobbin cases. This is going to be the bobbin that goes with the machine right here. And I can give you some dimensions on this if you'd like, because they do make aftermarket ones and they don't always get it right. They get it wrong a lot. Oh, let me ask the audience one other question real quick. And this is because you're family. And I wanted to let you know that we were just approached by about 3 or 4 different companies about wanting to partner with Cow Country. And one of them will surprise the heck out of you. I think it will surprise you. It surprised me when I got it in an email. Susie doesn't even know this yet, so I'm sorry about that, honey. I didn't tell you about it. But we were contacted by a drink company. We were contacted by a drink company. Let me see if I can find the email. I'm getting close, I think. Okay, here it is. So it reads, hello, Scott. Hope you've been having a good week. Recently saw your content and enjoyed your style. Do I have style? I guess I have style, don't I? We enjoyed your style and thought I'd say hi about Monster energy drinks. Did you ever see that one coming? Monster energy drinks wants us to partner with them, and they love our content. It feels like a good match is what they wrote. And if Susie and I are open to chatting about partnering with Monster energy drinks, we're going to see where it goes. So how does that tie into Cow Country? Can someone help me understand that? How does Cow Country or how does Scott tie into Monster energy drinks? I know I got a lot of energy. I know I do. I got a lot of energy, especially when it comes to vintage sewing machines. But I never, when I opened the email, I was surprised. We've been contacted by a number of different companies recently, which I'm very thankful for. I'm glad they love our content. I'm glad they love Cow Country. I'm glad they love the family. I'm glad they love what we're doing here. But I don't know, Tim, what do you think? Should we partner with Monster energy drinks? Is that a fit for us? They think it's a fit for them. But and they call the Monster energy community. So I'm open to family feedback. So if the family thinks it's a good idea, Susie and I will do a couple of steps forward in talking to the Monster energy community, the Monster energy drink people, and see what they want to do in partnering with Cow Country. But isn't that cool? You just never know, do you? You never know who's watching. You never know, out of the 1,376 people right now, what businesses, what companies, maybe major companies, are watching us right now and contemplating a partnership with the Cow Country community, the Cow Country family. So I wanted to share that with you real quick. That's kind of cool. That's kind of super cool. All right. I'm going to stop kicking the camera, though. Oh, did Tim and Teresa step away? Okay. Also, good morning to Kathy King. It looks like Kathy King stopped into the live chat and the live stream as well. It's always great to have Kathy with us. Great to have Kathy with us as well. Okay, so a little bit of DIY real quick. Let's do a little bit of DIY on this bobbin case and also get you some measurements on the bobbin as well, so you know what that is. And then we'll jump into this machine, okay? I'll give you the dimensions on the bobbin case first. So as far as the height of it, if we measure the height like this, you're looking at a height right around 9.5 millimeters. Right around, well, wait, 5, 6, 7, 8, right around 9 millimeters. Let's just call it 9 millimeters high. 9 millimeters high as far as the bobbin case for the rotary machine. And then as far as the width, we'll see if we can measure it like this. The width, some people might say arguably that's the height, but I'm going to call it the width because it's the widest point. The width of it, you're looking at right around just shy of 25 millimeters, which is about 1 inch. It's just about an inch. So about 25 by, what did I say, 9? Yeah, 25 by 9 on the bobbin for this rotary machine by Domestic. The same would apply to the white rotary as well. Now, as far as a little bit of DIY on the bobbin case, let's actually go by the other side of the sewing machine. We'll go right over here. We'll tilt our camera down a little bit. And we'll do just a little bit of brief DIY. You've seen me do this before with various bobbin cases and that. And we'll do it again. So we're going to start with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. We'll start with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Put it on the end of the Q-tip swab. Now remember that rubbing alcohol has an active agent in it. The alcohol continues to act on whatever surface you put it on, until you neutralize it. So whenever you're using rubbing alcohol to clean anything, you always want to neutralize and stop that action using sewing machine oil or using a kerosene product to stop it acting. Otherwise, it's going to keep eating away at that surface. And when you're talking about plating in particular, if you've got a real stain, a stubborn stain on silver or on chrome or on stainless steel, you can use rubbing alcohol sparingly, but you've got to stop the action. You got to stop the action, okay? So even our bobbin case on this domestic is silver plated. I'm not making that up. This is silver plating. So we can clean it, but then we have to go over it with an oil base to stop that action of the alcohol. We'll do the same thing on the inside as well. Clean the inside of that, get off any crud that's on there. On the inside where it mounts to the machine, we'll try to clean that as well. Around the outside. And even though I've cleaned this before, look at that. You can see how dirty the bobbin case is because it acts like a vacuum cleaner in pulling all of that residual oil and dirt into that raceway as the machine is operating. The same thing with the motor. The motor does the same thing. So now that we've cleaned that up a little bit, now we're ready where we could clean up our bobbin as well. You can also clean your bobbins if you didn't know that, because they'll develop rust and deposits on them sometimes, especially the inside where the thread goes. You can swab that over as well. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set down our dirty Q-tip and we're going to add a little bit of oil to it to stop that action. And we're going to go over the same parts again that we already cleaned with the rubbing alcohol so that that rubbing alcohol stops acting on this surface. We don't want it to continue working on this surface. We want to put it to rest. We set that to the side now. We'll do the same thing with the bobbin as well. Cleaned it with the rubbing alcohol. Now we're going to stop that chemical action on this surface by neutralizing it with oil, okay? And you can see that just slides in like that quite nicely into the bobbin case. There we go. Slides in quite nicely, and you can see that it's just about flush with the ridge of the bobbin case. That way you know that it's going to be working well for you. And I've already given you the dimensions, so you know what to look for if you buy aftermarket. It's going to have one adjusting screw only to adjust tension. And as I've talked about in other live streams, this bobbin case is going to define that top stitching. This bobbin case is going to define that top stitching. It's going to be pulling down like this in the sewing process to define the top stitch. And it's going to be working cooperatively with the upper tension to define the lock stitch. So between this pulling down and the upper tension pulling up, they're going to get in a tug of war and finally find a sweet spot where they can agree, okay, that's the right tension. And then you've got a lovely stitch on the top. You've got a lovely stitch on the bottom. So yeah, but a unique bobbin case. When you're threading it, I don't have a bobbin with any thread on it, but there's going to be just a little notch right there. You can see that. See that little notch right there where my finger is? So as you slide your bobbin in, the thread is going to be coming under. It's going to be coming under the bottom so that as this bobbin is turning, it's going to be turning counterclockwise in the sewing process. And you're going to draw the thread through that little notch that I showed you, and then draw it under here, underneath that tension spring, all the way to this point right here, so that it's going to be underneath that little tension band right in that region. Don't pull it past. Keep it right underneath that little tension band right there. And then if you find that your top stitching is underdefined, you would turn this screw in real small increments. Or if your top stitching is overpowering the lock stitch, so your lock stitch is not well defined, or you've got to crank your upper tension way up, then you can go ahead and back this screw off by turning it counterclockwise in small increments, and it's going to give you more control over your upper tension to define that lock stitch better. Does that make sense? So again, if you find one of these, sometimes you'll buy a new machine, you'll get a machine at a thrift shop or somewhere like that, and someone has turned this screw all the way in. And in order to get a balance, you're having to crank your upper tension all the way to the max. And even there, you're still not getting the desired result. That's when you have to back this screw counterclockwise out in small increments until you can get that upper tension turned down to a reasonable level. Right now, you can see we're set at only about 4. We're only set at about 4 in our upper tension, which is a lovely place to be because we've got a lot of discretion then in going up if we're dealing with a difficult fabric or we're dealing with multiple layers and we need more pull to define that lock stitch. Look at the range that we can work with. We're only at right around 4. We can go all the way up to 8. We've got a lot of range because this was backed out and now they're more in harmony together. So this doesn't have to be maxed out. This doesn't have to be maxed out. They're nicely balanced between the two of them. Okay. Now over here, I'll just show you in this pile. This machine had a lot of wiring and electrical issues when it came from Arkansas, the cheese dip capital of the world, apparently. So when this machine came, it had an older style knee controller with a lot of wiring issues. You can kind of see that a little bit here. If I pull it over here, you can see that a little bit right there. And right here, this was coming off a motor. And this wiring is real brittle right now, so it was really quite a fire hazard. So I upgraded the wiring on this dramatically, along with upgrading some parts of the motor as well. You can see some of the components of the motor here. And now it's a safe, very, very powerful machine to operate. So a little bit of DIY for you. Now you know how to service your bobbin case and your bobbin for a rotary machine. You know how to thread the bobbin in the bobbin case as well. Again, when it's operating, it should be turning counterclockwise like this. You imagine it like a clock. If it's turning clockwise, then you threaded your bobbin wrong, okay? All right, let me put some of this away. And let's take a deeper look at this machine now. Oh, I should also talk real quickly about the drive system on this machine. Talk real quickly about the drive system on this machine. It does not have a belt. What it has instead, let me bring the camera back over. What it has instead is it's called a motor output pulley. This is the original motor output pulley that was on this rotary domestic machine. It was a little bit past its expiration, as you can see. Had quite a few issues going on with it. Now, if you don't know it, when you go to buy a replacement motor output pulley, because eventually it will wear down. It will eventually wear down because it's driving the balance wheel with direct drive. It's not transferring the power. It's pushing the power from the motor directly into this output pulley and then directly into the balance wheel. So it's a direct drive machine, which means you can generally sew through things when it's optimized. You can sew through things with this machine with a lot greater ease than a machine that's belt-driven. Belt-driven machines will have slippage issues. Sometimes people will put the belt on too tight, and then it puts a drag on the motor. Sometimes they'll put it on too loose, and then it'll slip on the pulley. So there's all kinds of challenges you can encounter with a belt-driven machine. That's one of the reasons I think the rotary machine was so popular when it was first introduced in the early 1940s, is because it gave a direct drive option to the sewing machine that allowed people to sew at a much higher level, a much, much higher level. But if you go to replace one of these, you've got to understand that the inside circumference on them is going to be different depending on the pulley. You can see the one on the bottom is going to have a larger circumference for mounting on that output part of the motor than this one on top. So you've got to know what your measurements are for your rotary style machine. You'll take a caliper, you'll measure the inside dimensions of where that pulley is going to slide onto that motor post, and then you'll know which one to get. Some of them are going to have a single screw to hold it in place. Some are going to have 2 screws, 3 screws, and sometimes that output pulley, depending on the age of the rotary machine, might have a flat spot where the pulley will slide on, and then you'll, on that flat spot that comes off of the motor, you'll screw that screw onto the flat spot so that it'll hold that pulley more securely. So there are nuances to the rotary family. I'm not going to give you one, gospel, this is the way it is for all of them, because that's not the case. Some of them are going to require a slightly larger aperture on the inside of that pulley. Some are going to require a slightly smaller aperture. So get yourself a mechanical caliper, measure on the inside so you know how big that hole is in relation to your output on the motor, and then get them matched appropriately. You also notice that some of them also come with a flared edge, like this one. Some of them come with a flat edge. There's all kinds of flavors of these. So you'll want to make sure that you get the one that will work best with your rotary machine, okay? Make sure you get one that works best with your rotary machine. Okay, so a little bit more walk around this rotary domestic machine that belongs to Tammy and Ron from Cheese Dip Country out in Arkansas. And just kind of give you a quick walk around, and we're going to finally put this machine to work. So here again is our upper tension. What you're looking at here is silver plating and adjusting this up or down. The faceplate assembly does come off completely. You'll see there's a screw set right there. If you take it off, be real careful, because you got to get things lined back up properly so everything will work correctly when you put it back together. But that screw coming out will allow you to take this entire assembly off, and then you can service the inside more thoroughly like I did. This little service plate comes off here as well. You can either drop oil in there, or you can take the entire plate off and service this as well. It's going to be part of the main shaft assembly. So you would just take something like this and just place a single drop of oil right into there to provide lubrication. You also have lubrication points all the way across the machine, starting right here. This is for the needle bar, presser foot lubrication, presser foot bar lubrication. This is also to adjust your presser foot right here. By screwing it down, you can increase the pressure and sew heavier materials or thicker materials by turning it down. If you're sewing something lighter, like we might do today with this vintage velvet, this stuff right here, then we would want to decrease this potentially so that it's not pushing down too hard. The big deal about presser foot pressure is it's going to maintain the integrity of the stitch length setting that you choose. So if you choose a stitch length setting, whether it's forward or reverse on this machine, to maintain the integrity of that stitch length, you've got to have proper presser foot pressure. If you have inadequate presser foot pressure up here, you're going to notice even if you turn your stitch length up to the max, you're not going to get that max stitch length. You're going to get a stubby stitch because those feed dogs are not able to grip the material because there's not enough pressure coming down, pushing that material into the feed dogs. Does that make sense? So presser foot pressure, Susie and I find this all the time. People don't know about it. They've had a machine for years, decades, and they've never adjusted the presser foot pressure. However it's adjusted. You've seen some machines recently on this channel where they're computerized and you adjust the presser foot pressure electronically. Whether it's mechanical or whether it's electronic, you got to get it adjusted right. Otherwise, you're going to be struggling with your stitch length, with your material feed, and everything else. It's a real big deal, okay? It's a real big deal. Okay, so lubrication points again here, 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 here. Nope, we don't have one underneath there. Here, lubrication point there. And last but certainly not least, we've got a lubrication point right there that comes right off of the main shaft and the balance wheel. That's an incredibly critical one to keep properly serviced, because otherwise your balance wheel start to create drag and you're going to be struggling. And you'll notice right now, since I haven't been using the machine since late last night when I finalized things, between that output pulley and the balance wheel, I've got a piece of material right there. Because if you don't do that, that balance wheel output pulley is going to be pressing in to the balance wheel, and you're going to create a depression into that rubber. It's going to create a little divot, and it's going to create a bumpy ride as far as that output pulley trying to drive that balance wheel smoothly. So on rotary machines, or any of the machines that have an output pulley drive system like this, when you're not using the machine, even for a couple of hours, even if you sew in the morning and you're planning on coming back to sew again in the evening, you want to take a second and you want to put some sort of a buffer in between. And all you do is rotate. There's a spring loading. If you can see that, there's a spring loading that presses that motor naturally into the balance wheel so that output pulley has good traction, okay? But when you're not using it, even for a couple of hours, take a piece of material and stick it in between, and that way you're not going to cause a deforming of that output pulley surface, and you're going to start to have drive issues with your machine, okay? And you also want to do periodic maintenance on your output pulley as well. I'm going to demonstrate it on one of these instead of on the machine, because again, this is silver plating as well. So if you decide to use any sort of a cleaner to clean your output pulley, you need to make sure it's absolutely dry before you allow that pulley to rotate back into the balance wheel. Otherwise, let's say you use rubbing alcohol. That rubbing alcohol is then going to get transferred to your balance wheel, to that silver plating, and without you even realizing it, it's going to keep acting on that silver plating and destroy that beauty. So be real careful about chemicals you use on your sewing machine that have active ingredients. You've got to neutralize them. You've got to stop that action. Otherwise, it's going to keep acting on the surface and take a lovely machine like this and make it pitted and ugly real quick. So when you're cleaning an output pulley, I'll just show you real quick. Let me get some of my Q-tips back. And you can certainly take the output pulley off of your machine if you want. It's not necessary, as long as you keep it away from the balance wheel until it dries. But you can take rubbing alcohol like this. You can put some on your Q-tip swab like this. And I'm just going to do this real fast just for illustration purposes. I'm not going to be as thorough as I normally am. But then you can clean the inside of that output pulley. Clean the outside where it's going to be making contact with the balance wheel. Now you might say to yourself, wait a second, we can't put oil to stop the action. And you'd be absolutely right. You'd be absolutely right. You can't do that because it'll cause it to slip. So what we're going to use instead is water. We're going to use water to stop the action. Now look at all of that stuff. We didn't spend much time doing it. Look at all the stuff we got off of that output pulley. So you can imagine now the traction that that output pulley will have against that balance wheel versus prior to us cleaning it. So now we've stripped a lot of that stuff off. I would be a lot more thorough with a customer's machine as I was with Tammy's and Ron's, but I'm just showing you for illustration purposes how you can clean it. Now to stop the action, we're going to get just a little bit of water because we don't want to use oil on something that needs traction, right? So I'm going to get just a little bit of good old spring water. Got a bottle around here somewhere. Actually, I've got a bottle of it too, now that I think about it. Hold on one second. I've got to find that bottle. Okay, here we go. So this is just plain old plain old water. Give me just a second here. Somebody just texted me. I think that was Susie texting me. Bear with me for a second. Oh, Felicia is in the chat. Hopefully she saw us showing her pictures. That was fun. Yeah, welcome to Felicia from out in the great state of Virginia, a couple hours away from Washington, D.C. I got to show her machines real quick. I'm actually glad that Susie sent me that text. Let me real quick, I'll apply a little bit of water to this Q-tip swab, and then I'll go ahead and just neutralize that action on the output pulley. Let me go ahead and do that real quick. Must be getting a delivery. I hear Hank barking. So we just cleaned. I've got so much stuff in my way right here. So we just cleaned this with rubbing alcohol. Now we need to stop the action. So I'm just going to rub over it with a little bit of water. I would not use tap water. I would use some sort of a filtered water. You could even use, if you run a dehumidifier like we do here, because it gets really humid. If you run a dehumidifier, you could use dehumidifier water because it's got no minerals in it. The process of a dehumidifier pulling the water out of the air is it does not pull minerals with it. So it's a distilled water. It's got no mineral deposits. So distilled water would be the best way to neutralize the action on the output pulley. And that way you know that you're not putting anything back on that surface. And then just let it air dry, and then you can slide it back on. Again, some of the output stems coming off of the motors will have a flat spot. If it does, you'll want to line up this screw with that flat spot so that you have the best traction. This isn't going to slip. Or if you have multiple screws on some of these, you can screw all of them in and make sure it stays real secure. And you'll want to center it right on the balance wheel. When you slide it, if you take it off and you put it back on, make sure that it centers right on the balance wheel. I'll show you how I've done it on this one. So you've got the best possible traction looking straight down at it. See it? You got the best possible traction. It's going to be centered right on that balance wheel. And that way you know you're not going to get any slippage when you're operating the machine. Oh, let me real quick show Felicia's machines that she brought a great distance to Susie and I. This is the one on the end right here in the case. And this is, I'm just going to hold this away because I got her information on it too. This is going to be a Singer 319W. A Singer 319W is in this case right here. And then this is going to be, I believe, a Japanese clone. Let me just double check. It's going to be a Japanese machine, a Brother Zigzag. This is going to be a FOF 230. Now we've got a Neki BF Mira. And then finally we have a FOF 130-6 right over there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 machines. Felicia hauled all the way about 8 hours to bring them specifically to the workshop for Cow Country. I'm truly honored by that. I don't take that for granted. I'm truly honored that I built a strong enough reputation and people see the difference in the way I do things that they're willing to make a long trip like that. We had other folks that drove up as well with 2 machines all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. That's not a walk around the park. So, and certainly when I was up in Wisconsin, we had people drive in from all over the place, California, New York, all the way to Wisconsin. We had a couple drive in from Canada, a couple come in from West Virginia. So if you fall in love with something and you do it with all your heart, you do it with a great deal of passion, and you do it to the highest standard, people notice, and they're willing to make that extra trip so that they can enjoy that higher level of service. And it doesn't have to be with sewing machines. It can be in anything that you do. Do it to the highest level, set yourself apart, just like Domestic did with creating a machine that was so unique in the marketplace with silver plating and all the other nuances that they put into the machine to just make it extraordinary. And people notice the difference. They notice the difference straight away. Okay. So I think I'm done with the DIY stuff. We did the DIY stuff over here a little bit. Kind of showed you some of that. Let me finish walking around the machine. Here again, we've got their badge mark right here, the Domestic rotary badge mark, which also is silver plated. We've got our stitch length control right over here. If you want to go longer on the stitch, you simply turn it up or down. On reverse, you can only go up to 8. So it's 8 all the way down to 1, where most sewing machines, if you look at them, you're going to look at higher numbers. In other words, let's say it's a Singer sewing machine, kind of like the 319W that Felicia brought. Generally, if you want a shorter stitch, you're going to go up in the numbers. And we'll talk about a shorter stitch being 25 to 30 stitches per inch. And you go up to those higher numbers. On the Domestic machine, when you go to the higher numbers, you're going to get a longer stitch. So if I put this reverse all the way on 8 in the red zone right there, I'm going to get the longest reverse stitch that this Domestic rotary can generate. If I come down to the forward stitch, again, these are independent. You can have a longer or shorter reverse stitch, and then a totally independent stitch length on forward sewing as well. So on this one, if you want to go to the longest stitch possible, you're going to turn it all the way up to 11. So 11 is the max on forward, 8 is the max on reverse. And you adjust it by simply turning this little knob up or down. And you'll notice that the reverse bar is kind of moving with it as you go a little bit, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, we're going to pretty much be in the max range most of the time. This is your reverse right here. You bring it down to go in reverse all the way down, and you release it when you want to stop sewing in reverse, okay? To wind a bobbin, you're going to come off with this extra spool pin right up here. You're going to come down through the right side of this tensioner. See that little band right there? You're going to come from right to left and go into that tension disc right there. Make sure you get it all the way in. See how that flexes out? Make sure you get it all the way in, and then you're going to draw it straight down to here where you're going to go ahead and mount that bobbin. You'll mount a bobbin like this to your output right here for the bobbin winding. This does require lubrication as well. There's a small little port right there where you'll put a single drop of oil about every 10 hours of sewing. If you wind a lot of bobbins, you might want to increase the frequency, but don't overdo it, because when you oil this point right here, it's going to seep in and get on the inside of this tire, and it's going to start to cause your tire to slip. And you can service this tire the same way I showed you with that output pulley, a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and then you can neutralize it with a little bit of maybe distilled water. Let it completely dry, and then you can make contact with that balance wheel again. And you'll do that periodically just to keep that wheel from slipping. But when you engage it, you just push this up like this. It's going to engage to that balance wheel, and then you're going to hold your balance wheel over here, and you're going to turn this stop action towards you so you can wind a bobbin, okay? And then obviously turn it back the other way to the rear when you want that main shaft to be engaged again, okay? Yeah, so I'm going to bring that back down. Let's see, what else? There is a service point on the motor too. I'm not going to demonstrate it, but I'll tell you about it. So back over here, if we walk around to the back of the machine, I'm going to try to angle the camera down a little bit. There's a service point right here. And what you do is you unscrew this stem. There's going to be a little wick inside. There's going to be a little wick for lubricating the shaft inside of this rotary motor. So you unscrew this all the way, lefty-loosey. You take it completely out. You take out the old grease or the old oil that's in there, get it nice and clean, and then repack it with an appropriate grease. Do not use oil. Do not put oil in this well when you put it back in. Put a grease, whether it's a Singer grease or the proprietary grease that Cow Country makes. And all the leaders have their own grease, their own colored grease. It looks a little bit like this. I'll put some on my finger. Looks a little bit like this. And you'll pack that little tube with some of that grease. I've got some still shots that I haven't posted yet. You'll see me doing that. And then you simply screw it back into place. Now, what do I do with this? I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to eat it. What do you do with this? So at any rate, you just screw that back in, and then it provides ongoing lubrication to that shaft that runs through this rotary motor, okay? Keeps it running smooth and keeps it running quiet. And you're going to notice when we operate this machine, it's very quiet. It's very, very quiet, at least now. All right, I got to wipe off my finger now. I greased myself up. But if you'd like to contact Susie and me, and you'd like to get some of our proprietary grease, you can do that. We've had people traditionally that have contacted us, and what we generally do is we put together a little tin. We've had a number of people say to us over the years, I'll pay you for that. I'll pay you for that. Well, you're family. Family, I always say you get the family discount, which is free. So if you want to, help offset the shipping cost, if you live way out somewhere, you can certainly throw a couple bucks at us to offset the shipping, but we'll be happy to send you a little tin of grease similar to this, and then you can use it in place of the other greases that they have out there now. And this is better than, I'm just going to say it, no offense to Singer, but it's better than the original Singer grease. If you've ever had one of those old tubes of Singer grease, they dry out, and they dry out inside of your machine as well. So our grease does not dry out. It's got a very, very nice viscosity to it. It lowers the friction. It stays supple, and it does an excellent, excellent job of keeping your machine running smoothly. So just reach out to Susie or reach out to me and say, I would love to get my hands on some of that grease, and we'll do our very best to get you some. It may not look exactly like this, but we'll get you some of that grease, and then you can put it into service with your sewing machines, okay? And, if you have a certain favorite moderator, I'm just going to say it. If you've got a certain favorite moderator, like you just love Tim, or you love Teresa, or you love Jenny, or you love Candido and Rachel, or you love Susie, or you love one of those other leaders, I can even specialize the grease so it's the color that leader picked. I know you probably don't care, but I'm just saying it. If you got a special leader that you really, really like, we can give you their color grease, and I'll just make it specific for them. And you'll get that in your run-up for your machines. All right, blah, 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 blah. Also on this, the other service point potentially is you've got your motor brushes right here, one on the top, one on the bottom. Never, ever open this when the machine is plugged in like it is right now, because that runs over the commutator. And as soon as you plug that machine in, that foot controller starts feeding the motor electricity. Even if that motor isn't running, it's got energy running through it, and you could get shocked because there's a copper coil that goes down to that commutator. So do not open these ports for the motor brushes when your machine is plugged in, okay? Unplug your machine, then you can take them out. I've shown you before how you can clean the commutator. I've shown you before how you can clean motor brushes. So put that into practice, and your machine will run much stronger and will be much closer to being optimized and delivering as much power as it can and as much speed as it can. Okay? All right, that's a lot of blah, blah, blah. I know that's a lot of blah, blah, blah. So let me see if I can get things moved to the side, and we'll actually sew with this machine. I've got to move the camera. I've got to move my music. Hold on a second. There we go. I think I got that pretty stable. Move the camera back a little bit. Excuse me. Now our setup today, as you might suspect, for this domestic rotary is going to be a Coates and Clark thread, the dual duty XP thread, generic stuff, nothing fancy. And it's going to be a Schmetz Universal 9014 needle. So we're not using a specialized needle per se. We're using a very universal needle. This is what they look like. They sell them at Walmart, other places like that. A 10-pack, I think they're around $8. And that's what we'll be using on this machine. So if anyone ever told you you need a special needle for a rotary machine, that's not necessarily true. It will take a standard Schmetz needle and it will sew very nicely. Okay, let me see what we've got here. Let me see what we've got. Oh, this is a little bit of a tricky machine to thread. I should probably, even though we've been running an hour and 19 minutes, you haven't even seen Tammy and Ron's machine sew yet. It will sew, I think. Even though you haven't seen it sew yet, I'll tell you a little bit about the threading on this. Okay. Matter of fact, I'll walk you through it just briefly. I'll walk you through it briefly because it's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit tricky. So we come off the top. We come off the top from the dual duty XP thread by Coates and Clark. We come through this little thread guide right here. You're going to come underneath. Let me grab my little pointer. We got a little pointer somewhere. Here we go. You're going to come underneath this thread point right here and then come around the side of this. So you kind of hook it through and you come out the front of it right there. See how we did that? Just kind of come around there. Then you're going to drop down, and here's the tricky part. Here's the slightly tricky part. We're going to come down to this little hodgepodge of a take-up spring. And what you have to do is you have to come underneath the edge of this opening right here. I hope you can see that. We're going to come underneath the edge of that opening. And when you draw the thread upward, you're going to draw that take-up spring with you. And then ultimately it's going to seat on this little ridge right here behind the pressure plate. So you come through this little opening, you draw the thread kind of up, drawing the take-up spring with you. And then that thread will automatically seat on a little space right there where I'm pointing. I hope you can see that. And then from there, you bring the thread straight up to the take-up arm, and you're going to thread the take-up arm from left to right. And then you're going to come down here. There's one thread point right there. And then you're going to thread this needle from left to right. And the flat side of the needle on the needle that you use, whether it's a Schmetz, which I think is superior, or another type of needle, you're going to put the flat side to the right. Now, as soon as you put the flat side to the right, that will tell you that that is the same side. The flat side is going to be the same side as the scarf. If anyone in the live chat right now wants to type into the live chat, what is the significance of knowing how to orientate the scarf on your needle? Why is that a big deal, knowing which way to point the scarf? On this rotary, we're pointing the scarf to the right, so the flat side is on the right. What's the big deal about that? Why do we care? Someone type that in the live chat if you would, okay? All right. Let's see if we can do a little bit of sewing with this machine before I run out of time. Aha. And I'm also going to get a quick little sip of tea. Susie made me some tea this morning, and yes, she put sweetener in it, which I'm always grateful for. Let's see here. Yeah, so if you weren't here in the live stream earlier, we've been contacted by Monster Energy Drinks, and they want to do a partnership with Cow Country. Now, I know some of you like Monster. Some of you probably drink Monster Energy Drinks. Some of you probably don't, because you've heard if you drink anything to excess, that's true of Monster. That's true of if you drink alcohol. I don't oppose anybody that chooses to drink alcohol in moderation. If you drink alcohol, you do everything in moderation, right? But people that don't know moderation or don't follow moderation will overdo anything. Maybe it's coffee, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's a Monster energy drink, and all of a sudden it becomes a problem. And historically, Monster has had to explain to people, hey, enjoy our drink, but don't go crazy with it because it can cause heart palpitations and other things like that. Any energy boosting substance can cause your heart to race. So you've got to do it in moderation. All right. So a little bit more Mozart while I'm getting a sip of the yummy tea that Susie made for me. And then we're going to start doing some sewing on this machine. Finally. Finally. All right, I got my tea. So any of you that type some comments in there, thank you for first of all stepping out of the shadows and getting involved and typing in your thoughts. Um, the scarf is a big deal because on a hook system like this, as that hook is coming around, it comes within about a half a millimeter of that scarf, and it grabs that thread to complete the sewing process. So if you orientate the scarf in the wrong direction, the hook is going to come around. It's not going to find the thread, and you're not going to have any stitching. So if you've ever heard of somebody maybe on Facebook or Pinterest or one of those other places talking about all of a sudden their machine is not stitching, they're running it, the needle is going up and down, but they're not getting any stitch, that generally is going to be a product of a hook issue, either hook timing or the orientation of your scarf in relation to the hook. So just think of that scarf going up and down like this on the right side as it is on this rotary. And at the same time, that hook is coming by, as that needle is coming down, it grabs that thread and then it completes that sewing process. So getting the hook in relation to the scarf is critical if you want to sew. Otherwise, you're not going to be sewing. Okay. So anyone that got that answer right, kudos to you. Well done. And that's what we love about our classroom, isn't it? We're always learning new things from each other. You're not just learning from the wizard. We're learning from each other because we all come with a wealth of knowledge and experience. And that's why it's such a blessing when folks get to a point of being comfortable enough, they step out of the shadows and they join the live chat and they start sharing their knowledge. That takes them then from being a student to being a fellow teacher. And that's what our classroom is all about. It's not like some of those classrooms, you've been in them, you know what I'm talking about. You got some big-headed person that thinks that they're the only one that can teach you something, and you better shut up and listen. You probably had teachers like that in school too, and you remember them, but not for good reasons. We all can be fellow teachers and fellow students. We all can learn from each other. That's the beauty of being part of the Cow Country classroom. That's the beauty of being part of the Cow Country family. Never, ever sell yourself short. And if you're in a Facebook group or if you're on a YouTube channel where you got one of those teachers that think they know it all, I would click away myself. I wouldn't want to be a part of that. Yeah, that's my opinion anyway. All right. Ride the scarf. I like that. Like ride the wave, ride the scarf. Well done, Kathy. I like that. Ride the scarf. Yeah, so you can take out your bobbin case and turn your balance wheel, and you can get an idea of how that scarf is interacting with the hook that swings around to grab that thread. And then you know right away, you don't need an owner's manual. You'll know right away which way to point that scarf, right? And that's true of not only needles that have a flat side, that's also true of other needles that have that rounded top. They don't have a flat side. You'll see it on some of the light industrial machines. You still got to point the scarf the right way so that it'll interact with that hook. Otherwise, you ain't, I'll just say it like we did down in Kentucky. You ain't going to be sewing. You ain't going to be sewing at all. No, you ain't. All right. So let's see if we can put this machine to work a little bit. And I'll tell you that this machine does have a hyperextension. You can kind of see that working right there. So if you've got a thicker piece of material, you can gain about 3 to 5 millimeters by pushing that pressure foot lever up outside of its normal range, just a little bit higher up, and you can get that extra clearance you need. Okay. Let's just start real basic. We'll start with some good old-fashioned cotton. This is from a fat quarter at Walmart that I got. It's got a stiffener in between just to give a little bit of stability to the material. So if I want to give this a hand start, which I really don't need to do, if I want to give this a hand start, which way will I rotate that balance wheel? If I want to give this domestic rotary that belongs to Tammy and to Ron a hand start, let's say I'm going through some real thick leather and I want to give it a little bit of a boost. Which way do I push the balance wheel? Do I push it back or forward? Back or forward? Type it in the live chat if you would. It's important to know that with a rotary machine. Which way do we rotate that balance wheel? Backwards is correct. Well done, Susie. You always, on a rotary machine, you're going to rotate that backwards. And if you're not sure, if you get a particular machine, if you're not sure which way to rotate it to pull that thread up, because I've been contacted numerous times by experienced sewists. They get a new machine and they are trying to get that bobbin thread to come up and they cannot get it to come up. And more than once, well, here's some of the things that typically result in that. Number one, their hook timing is off. Number two, they inserted the needle with the scarf pointing the wrong way. Number three, they did not put that needle far enough in the needle socket, and it's throwing the timing of the machine off. So the hook, as it's coming around, is missing that thread, and they've got to push that needle all the way up in that needle socket to get that done. But the other factor is they've got a rotary style machine and they're rotating the balance wheel to the front as we normally would with every sewing machine under the earth, typically. But on the rotaries, you have to go the opposite way. So absolutely rotate it to the rear. You can pull that bobbin thread up and you can begin enjoying the sewing process. Okay, enough talking. Let's actually put this machine to work. So some good old-fashioned cotton. I've got the stitch length forward set at the longest setting. So we're going to get the longest stitch possible by this rotary domestic machine, this model 153. Oh, and I never told you the rest of it. You guys, it's hard managing a live stream. There's so many things to cover. And Susie's witnessed that, so she knows what I'm talking about. But the other thing I did not finish mentioning is this is a model 153. They also made a domestic and just a domestic model 153 MG, Mike George or Mickey George, or whatever you want to call it. Does anyone know what the MG stands for? If you have let's say a domestic rotary model 153 MG, what does the MG stand for? Type it in the live chat if you know. And while you're typing it in the live chat, I'm going to do my first sew off on this machine finally, after an hour and 32 minutes of blah, 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 blah. Finally, we're going to sew with the machine. Praise the Lord. Here we go. And on these rotaries, because they're driven by that output pulley on the back of the motor, let off the gas just a little bit early because it's going to keep rotating a little bit further before it stops. That way you don't over sew. Okay. All right. So our first sew off finally with this domestic model 153. Here we go. I almost have my foot on the foot pedal. Hold on a second. I'm close. Got my foot off the foot pedal just a little bit early, and then I'm going to rotate my balance wheel to the rear, raise my pressure foot, and then we'll go ahead and pull that thread. So I'm going to look at the live chat, see if anybody got it. It's a little bit of a tricky question, not horribly tricky, but a little bit tricky. Just a little bit tricky. And we'll take a look at this stitching that we did in our first stitch off. It looks like I made a slight adjustment on our upper tension. It looks like it might be a little bit on the weak side. Kathy King is not sure, and that's an honest response. So if someone would be so kind, if Kathy or anyone else, if you would be so kind as to type in the live chat that if you get a domestic model 153 MG, you're going to find that that machine is a lot easier to lift. You heard me right. A domestic 153 MG, identical to this machine, with the exception that instead of being made out of cast steel, it's made out of magnesium. There weren't a lot of them made, but they're out there. So if you ever come across, if you're out at an estate sale or at an antique store or at a thrift shop or someone else, and on the right side of the pillar, right over here, you're going to see a plate, and it's going to say 153 MG. That MG means that this machine is going to be about 70% lighter than this machine. A 153 MG made out of magnesium is going to be about 60 to 70% lighter than Tammy and Ron's machine, because magnesium is as strong as steel, but it's significantly lighter. I want to say, and I haven't looked at the specs for a while, but I want to say that in relation to steel, magnesium is 70% lighter than steel and 30% lighter than aluminum. That's right. Our featherweights, all of our other coveted machines that are made out of aluminum, like the Slant-O-Matic series, are also made out of aluminum. A magnesium machine is going to be significantly, noticeably lighter than even an aluminum machine, like a featherweight. You'll pick up a magnesium machine like this. You'll pick up a steel machine like that. So watch for those Model 153 MGs. They're a lot more rare, but they're identical to this machine except for the fact that they made them out of a different cast material. If you didn't know that, give me a thumbs up or a smiley face. If you didn't know that, give me a thumbs up or a smiley face so you'd learn something new in the classroom today. And that's always fun to do, isn't it? I should probably ring the bell because of that. And this bell also is silver plated. Aha! Just like this machine. All right, let's take a look at the stitching. Let's take a look at that stitching and see how we did on our first sew off on cotton. So here is our top stitching, which again is going to be defined by that bobbin case I showed you. Really, really quite lovely, isn't it? Lovely, lovely stitching. That is drop dead gorgeous. And that again is going to be our longest stitch that we can do on this domestic rotary. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. My camera's not so beautiful. It's going, I don't want to focus on that. There we go. Now, how do we do on our lock stitching? We'll turn over our lock stitching. Yeah, that's some good looking lock stitching, but I think it could be better defined. So I would turn up our upper tension just slightly to get better definition from it. Get a little bit better definition. Let's try it like this. There we go. And you can see we got a little bit of puckering. See that puckering on the material? That's because our presser foot pressure in relation to this sew off on this cotton is a little bit too high. I'm going to leave it where it's at, but if you want to get rid of that puckering, reduce your presser foot pressure. Whatever material you're sewing, maybe it's a cotton like this, maybe it's a felt, maybe it's some sort of a rayon material or whatever it is. It's going to be a lighter material. You'll get that puckering when your presser foot pressure is too high. But all in all, a beautiful stitch on top, a beautiful stitch, like reverse that, beautiful stitch on the bottom, a beautiful stitch on top. And now I'll get my caliper and we'll see how many stitches per inch we're getting at the longest setting for this domestic rotary Model 153. Okay? See how many stitches per inch we're getting. So I'm going to bring this all the way out to 1 inch. See if I can lock it right about there. Okay, that's going to be right about in 1 inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3. We're getting on the longest setting on this domestic rotary model 153, we're getting 7 stitches per inch at the longest setting forward that we can do. Now, if we do it in reverse, we're not going to get quite that long of a stitch because, again, the setting on the machine on forward goes to 11. On reverse, it only goes to 8. So maybe we would get like around 8 stitches per inch, maybe 9. But the fact that we're getting 7 stitches per inch is really quite extraordinary. That means that we're getting good feed. That means we're getting good power delivery, and we're getting a real good result as far as that stitch length integrity, So now we're going to reduce our stitch length forward. We get this material back into place. We'll shorten it up. Get that presser foot down. We're going to go over to our stitch length. Again, on the rotary machine here, we've got a forward adjustment. We've got a reverse adjustment. So I'm going to adjust my forward from 11. We'll go to about 9. I took it from 11 to 9. Or you know what we could do? It would make more sense. We could take it down to 8, and that way we can see what our maximum reverse stitch length is as well. Because we have this set on 8. We have this set on 8 now. And now we'll do a stitch off and see what our stitches per inch are, and we'll know what we can get as far as reverse also at the same time. Okay. And I didn't mention it specifically, in this live stream, but whenever you're launching, whenever possible, make sure your take-up arm is at the highest position. And again, to get it to the highest position, if it's not there, I'm going to be pushing the balance wheel to the rear. Looks like we are at the highest point, so that's perfect. All right, let's take a look on this next stitch off, and we'll see what our setting of 8 gives us as far as stitches per inch. Okay, here we go. And I stopped just a little bit early just so it doesn't oversew. Let's see what we did on this one. This is setting 8 again. So this would be our maximum length in reverse also. This would be our maximum length in reverse. So we'll look at the stitching first. And I adjusted the upper tension a little bit, but I might have to adjust a little bit further because I'm still seeing a more pronounced definition on the top stitch in relation to the lock stitch. We've got a good looking lock stitch, but it could be even a little bit better. So I may make one more adjustment up on the upper tension, but let's take a look at it first. So this is our first stitch off here, set on 11 and then set on 8. Let me get near the camera and see if we can look at those. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful stitching. That again is our top stitching, which is controlled by that cool bobbin case that I showed you before. Look at it like this also. There we go. Yeah, some beautiful stitching. Look at our lock stitching, turn it over and look at our lock stitching. Yeah, I think just a little bit more upper tension would be a good thing. Look at it like this. You can see all the puckering I'm getting because our pressure foot pressure is turned up pretty high right now. There we go. So some really good looking stitching. I always believe that nothing is perfect. I don't think any stitching is perfect. People will say it's a perfect stitch, like on a featherweight in that. I think that's a bunch of malarkey. And it sounds like, I don't, you probably can't hear it on the microphone, but we live up in the mountains, and the county will come through with a big tractor, and they'll cut down the growth in the ditch that's across from our house. And sometimes they end up kicking up sticks in that. I think I just heard a stick maybe hit, it might have hit our garage door. So Susie might want to keep an eye on those folks just to make sure that they're not hitting our stuff. But yeah, our camera's acting goofy today. Let me see if I can adjust it up a little bit. There we go. There we go. So yeah, it's good looking stitching. Get rid of the puckering, reduce the pressure foot pressure, maybe a little bit more definition on the lock stitching, but all in all, some really good looking stitching. Some really, really good looking stitching on this cotton. So I'm going to set this to the side, and let's move through some other materials now that I've got set up for the sew off. Let's move through some other materials. All right. Why don't we try some of this snakeskin material? I've got some of this snakeskin. It's snakeskin, and it's got a backing on it, some sort of a felt backing. And I think we'll just jump right into 2 layers. I'll put it back to back like this. We'll try to do 2 layers of this snakeskin material, kind of a tricky material, just like the ribbon material we're going to sew that has that acrylic and that glue and everything else in it. There's all kinds of stuff that they build into some of these specialty fabrics and materials, and it can create issues a little bit in that sewing process. It'll create drag on the thread. It'll create drag on the needle, and it'll sometimes cause a little bit of deforming of the stitch. We'll see how this domestic machine handles a more tricky material like this snakeskin material. So let me get that underneath the presser foot. I'm going to adjust my stitch length back to the longer stitch, and we'll try going up and down on this a little bit with the stitch length. So I've got the setting right now on 8. Off camera, what I'm doing is I'm turning it back to 11, the longest stitch length we can get. And now we're going to be feeding 2 of these slippery snakeskin pieces through. So maybe I'll cheat a little bit, and I'll put one of these clips on it that Paula Noel gave me a while back. See if we can sew it more straight and keep that material together more evenly. Let's see if I can do that. So 2 layers of snakeskin material. It's got a backing on it. We'll try the longest stitch first. We'll measure it to see if we maintain pretty close to 7 stitches per inch. Then we'll adjust the stitch length to 8 from 11, and we'll see if we can maintain that same stitch length that we did on the cotton. I don't know that I measured the cotton one. I should have done that. Let me see what our measurement is. I didn't do the shorter stitch measurement. I should have done that. So we know on the longer stitch we got 7. On the shorter stitch, what did we get on a setting of 8? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches, 9 stitches per inch on the shorter setting, which was number 8 on the forward for the domestic. And then we got 7 stitches per inch on setting 11 on the machine. So 11 was 7 stitches per inch. 8 was right around 9 stitches per inch, which is still really, really quite good. So we'll see how we do now in the snakeskin in maintaining that stitch length integrity, okay? All right, here we go. 2 layers of snakeskin type material. Don't you love that sound? I've got the microphone really, really close to the machine. It's almost like, you know, like a bum, 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 bum. But it's not a loud bum, bum, bum. It's just power. It's raw power. Raw power is what it's doing. So very, very nice. I catch myself out of habit, muscle memory. I catch myself beginning to reach for the balance wheel with the idea of rotating it towards me. And I go, stop, wrong way, wrong way. All right, so this is our longer stitch on this snakeskin material. Yeah, very, very nice. Very, very nice. And on the snakeskin material, interestingly, when you're dealing with tension factors, when you're dealing with tension factors, a lot can be affected by your setup, your thread, your needle, but also the material you're sewing as well. So I didn't make any additional adjustments to the upper tension. And I kept talking about that lock stitch not being quite as defined as I thought it could be. Well, without any additional adjustments, this material, wait until you see the lock stitch. It's quite spectacular, quite spectacular. So let's look at the top stitching first on this material. That's the snakeskin topper. See if we can get this to focus in on it. There we go. Very, very nice stitching. See if we can do it like this as well. That's our top stitching again. Some beautiful, beautiful drop dead gorgeous top stitching. Now, how did we do on the lock stitching? We've been on a little bit on the weak side. Not anymore. The snakeskin interacted with that tension factor very nicely, and it snugged up that lock stitch all by itself. Let's take a look as we go across. That is a drop dead gorgeous lock stitch, people. Drop dead gorgeous lock stitch. Let's look at it like this too. Absolutely gorgeous. So 2 layers of snakeskin type material, and we've got an absolutely brag-worthy top stitch, an absolutely brag-worthy lock stitch as well on the rear of it with no additional tension adjustments. So whenever you're making tension adjustments, whether it's up on top or in the bobbin case, make them gradual and try different materials before you conclude right away that your tension is off. It might be your setup, and it might also be the type of material you're trying to sew with. Susie and I, on more than one occasion since we've come to Kentucky, have found that people are setting themselves up for failure, especially on some of the light industrial machines that we fixed, by trying to use, Susie, type it in the live chat, what type of thread they were trying to use on a light industrial machine. It was a cone style thread, and it was definitely not the right thread. Definitely not the right thread. So let me set this snakeskin to the side. We're going to move on to another material and see if we can put this to work in continuing to show off this really, really cool domestic model 153 that belongs to Tammy and Ron out of the incredible state of Arkansas, known for cheese dip, apparently. Cheese dip. Yeah. They were trying to sew with serger thread. When I go into a setting, I'm right away looking at the mechanics, and I'm looking at how the machine is operating, how it's functioning. Susie looks at the world differently, thank goodness. And she noticed the thread issue before I did. I was focused on hook timing. I was looking at needle bar alignment. I was looking at a number of other mechanical functions of that industrial machine. And Susie right away touched me on the arm. She said, "Sweetie, they're sewing with serger thread." And I said, tell the customer they got the wrong thread. Yeah. One of our customers was trying every bobbin under the sun. They didn't care if it was right bobbin or not. I mean, customers, sometimes they set themselves up for a lot of struggle. They just do. They set themselves up for a lot of struggle. Yes, they do. All right. Felicia has a question. Is this a straight stitch only machine? The answer is yes. It's only a straight stitch machine, a straight stitch lock machine. I'm not aware of any attachments like the Singer machines have, where they develop the auto zigzagger, and you can put different cams into that zigzag attachment, and you can generate a zigzag and even some decorative patterns. I'm not aware that Domestic came out with that, but that may be something that I somehow missed, because I'm not hugely into attachments. But if someone wants to do some research and see if the Domestic rotary has the equivalent of the auto zigzagger that Singer came out with for straight stitch lock machines, to take them from a straight stitch machine to a zigzag and a variety of other stitches that they were able to do. So if someone wants to research that, if you don't find out this time, you can share it at the next live stream. Let us know. Okay. All right. So what do we sew next? What do we sew next? Why don't we do some leather? I've got some genuine cowhide here. I've got a single layer that we'll probably sew first, probably about 3 to 5 ounces of leather. And then we'll look at adding a second layer to it and see if we can go through 2 of these layers. Again, we do have the benefit of a direct drive system on this Model 153. It's got that output pulley directly in contact from the motor to the balance wheel. So we're not losing any energy. We're not losing any power. And as long as we keep that output pulley clean, keep that motor serviced and optimized, we're going to get the maximum output from that motor. Does anyone know what size motor this rotary machine has? Real quick, does anyone know what size motor this rotary machine has? We've got a data plate on the back, but it's not going to tell us the amperage. It's not going to tell us the amperage. It's going to tell us the watts and the volts. So we'll have to do a little bit of converting. Let me grab a piece of paper real quick. I'm also going to grab another machine. All right, let me grab another machine. I'm going to set it on my little pedestal here. I'll show you how they kind of changed the style. Again, I talked about when Domestic was bought out in the 1920s, I believe. Yeah, 1924. When Domestic was bought out by the White Sewing Machine Company in 1924, White decided to change certain things about the stylization of the machine. So we went from a Domestic rotary that looks something like this to a White rotary that looks something like this. You can see some of the controls they changed. Some of the things are real similar. Upper tension is moved on it as well. Badge mark is obviously different because it's a different company now. Threading on the faceplate is a little bit different also. Here we no longer have a lubrication point or a tower point for the needle bar. We've got one for the presser foot, but we don't have one for the needle bar. I like the towers that come on these because it holds a residual of that oil and it allows it to work its way down and wick down slowly. I think this is a much better design than what they did with the White version later on. But the motors stayed pretty much exactly the same. Bobbin winding assembly is the same. Stop action is the same. This is no longer silver. This is no longer silver. When White took over the company in 1924, they decided not to bring out the good silver for the family anymore. Domestic said, we're going to bring out the good silver. White said, nope, we're going to make it look pretty, but it's no longer going to be silver. It's going to be a chrome plating, electrostatic type chrome plating that they did. And you can see it really doesn't hold the luster and the beauty nearly as much as this machine. So quality, whether it's where you take your sewing machines or whether it's the type of sewing machine you buy from a certain period of production, can make the difference in the quality of that machine dramatically, can't it? Now, the one thing they did do, and I may have misstated this before, they did continue the MG series. So this white machine over here, this white rotary machine, is not made of magnesium. This one is made of steel. This one is made of magnesium. So it's significantly lighter, two finger lighter, like this. This is about 70% lighter than Tammy and Ron's machine. Now, as far as the motor I was starting to talk about, let me get my glasses. So you can see it's going to be 65 watts, Cleveland, Ohio, 65 watts, 110 volts. So if someone wants to go online and do a conversion for us, you'll type in something to the effect of, what would an electric motor be in amps that's rated at 65 watts and 110 volts? 65 watts, 110 volts. What is the amperage of a motor like that if we convert it? And then we'll know what the amperage is for that rotary motor. It's going to be the same as Tammy and Ron's machine. It's just going to be set up as a magnesium machine instead of a steel machine. Well, you can tell when you pick the machine up, it's dramatically lighter, this one. Dramatically lighter. Much, much lighter. All right, let me move this out of the way. And these rotary machines don't necessarily need to be in a table. They don't need to be in a base like you just saw that white version of the rotary. They don't need to be in a table or a base, but you can certainly elect to do that, especially the magnesium one like that white, because it's not going to be as stable as this steel one. It's not going to be as heavy. And this one, I believe, is going to be going back into a table when it gets back out to Arkansas. So, all right, so let's sew some leather now. Let's sew some leather. Let's see how we're running here. We're at about 2 hours. Yeah, to do the 2 questions to answer real quick. That white magnesium machine is a machine that's in Susie's and my personal collection. So that is Susie's machine, the one I just showed. And I want to say in our storage area underneath the workshop, we probably have 4 or 5 more rotary type machines by White or by Domestic. We've got quite a collection. If someone ever travels all the way out here to visit us, we will take them through the storage area that has all of our machines and show them our collection of machines. It will take a while. I want to say there's about 250 machines that Susie and I have, and that doesn't count the machines that you recently saw on the live stream in her sewing space. These are all additional machines that are housed in a secure space underneath the workshop. So we got a lot of machines. Got a lot of machines. Yeah, we do. Yes, you calculate to get the amperage. You'll take the wattage and the volts and divide it in. I don't remember what the factor is. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. How do I convert watts to amps? Okay, so to convert watts to amps, we're going to divide the power in watts by the voltage. Let's see, convert watts to amps. Divide the power in watts by the voltage in volts. I'm not sure that makes any sense. The wattage into, divide the power in watts by the voltage in volts. So I guess we're going to divide the watts of 65, I think it was 65, into 110 to tell us the amperage. We'll try it both ways. Try doing that, 65 into 110 or 110 into 60. It should give us the amperage of that motor. Let me try it real quick. I'll pull up a calculator. $65 divided into 110. So if I did it right, if you divide 65 watts into 110 volts, it's going to give us an amperage rating of about 0.59. So these rotary motors are going to put out right around 0.6 amps, which is the same power that a 201-2 has, a 1591. A lot of these slantomatics are going to have a 0.6 amp motor. There were a lot of 0.6 amp motors that Singer rolled out with their different series of machines. So if I did that right, dividing 65 watts into 110 volts, you get a 0.6 amp motor. 0.6 amp motor. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, that's right, Susie. 0.59. Oh, Kathy found an attachment that goes with the white rotary machine that I showed, the magnesium-based one. You know, it's very thoughtful of you, Kathy. Why don't you get together with Susie? I don't know if Susie has. I'll tell you what. Everyone has my number. Everyone has my number. If you want to text me, Kathy, your cell phone number, if you've got one, or if you have a landline, you can send me your landline number by email if you want. But there's a number of ways to contact me, and then I'll pass it along to Susie, and you ladies can talk about that attachment as far as the white rotary machine. But it's a very thoughtful thing to do. Thank you for offering to do that. Thank you for doing that. It's very thoughtful. Okay. So yeah, 0.6 amps is enough power, especially direct drive. We're not losing any of that energy because the motor is optimized, the machine is optimized, and that transfer of power is going directly to the balance wheel. So yeah, 0.6 amps is enough. Hopefully it's enough for this leather. So let's see if we can go through a single layer, and then we'll go through a double layer after that. We'll try to go through a double layer. I'll set this other layer right over there. I just kicked my foot controller. These higher workbenches are nice, but they also create problems sometimes in long enough cords from the foot controller, etc. So, all right, so let's try this leather. It's about 4 ounces of genuine cowhide, and we've got it on the longest stitch right now, 11 forward, and we'll see how we do. Yeah, I'm not going to give it a hand start. I don't think I'll need a hand start, and then we'll try 2 layers after that. All right. All right, here we go. I kind of oversewed a little bit there, but that's okay. I think I got it. And there's no shame in giving a machine a hand start for a more smooth delivery of that power. These output pulleys, even if they're clean, they can sometimes under heavier load, they can slip a little bit. You may have heard it slip just a little bit as I was engaging against this leather. So when we go to do 2 layers, I'm probably going to give it a little hand boost, pushing that balance wheel slightly to the rear. And that way we'll get that output pulley every chance to grip that slippery silver balance wheel and deliver some real good traction. Okay, so here's our sew off on this first layer of leather. Again, it's probably about 4 to 5 ounces of leather. Get nice and close to it. Hopefully the camera will focus. Let's try it like this. There we go. Some really, really good looking top stitching. Really quite lovely. Really lovely top stitching. Lock stitching. Let's take a look at our lock stitching, see how we did. Also a real good lock stitching too. You don't see any tilting of the stitch. If you get a little tilting of the stitch sometimes, that means that you don't have enough upper tension. Looks like our upper tension is doing an excellent job of managing that without a leather needle and, with a real basic setup. A real basic setup. And we've got a lovely, lovely lock stitch as well through a single layer of leather. Beautiful top stitch. Now we're going to be adding that second layer, and here's where it might get interesting. Here's where it might get interesting because we're really kind of pushing things a little bit there. So I'm going to go ahead and put this second layer. Whoops, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and put this second layer with it, and I'll do it facing the same way, like this. So we're keeping the grain going the same direction. And again, we do not have the benefit of a leather needle. We're going to be sewing through 8 to 10 ounces of leather. Look at the thickness of that. 8 to 10 ounces, maybe even 12 ounces of leather with a universal needle, which does not have a sharp serrated point. It's got a slightly rounded point. So we really are going to be putting that 0.6 amp motor to the test to see if it can deliver the goods. And then we'll measure both of these stitch lines. We'll measure both of these stitch lines to see how we did on stitch length going through a material as dense as this. I don't know if adding my little clips are going to help us in this case, so I might just go without them. If I sew a little bit crooked, I sew a little bit crooked. But we'll see how we do. And I am off camera. I'm going to give that balance wheel just a little bit of a push to the back as we launch to give it every opportunity with this universal needle to make its way through all of this leather. Okay, so here we go. This will be interesting. I did not test this off camera. So hopefully it's not a fail. I don't know if it will be. And hopefully we don't get any skip stitches. That's the big deal when you're going through material like this and you don't have exactly the right setup. You can get skip stitches because, like I said, as you're going through a material like this, that thread will get a drag on it and it'll slow it down in the sewing process, which means it can miss the hook. Even if you have that scarf orientated properly, if you're trying to sew too fast, if you're going through a denser material and you don't have the right setup, that needle and that thread will get a drag from going through all that leather. And as that hook is coming around to grab the thread, they can miss each other. Not like, I miss you because I love you, but I miss you because I'm late to the party. So let's see if we get a party on time or a party that is late. We'll see. Okay. All right, here we go. Come on, baby. So I gave it a little bit of a boost there, but I didn't give it a real even boost. So you may have heard that motor kind of complaining a little bit as that pulley was trying to grab the balance wheel and go through all that leather. With a universal needle, you're not cutting through it like a leather needle. You're punching through it. You're literally taking a slightly rounded point on that universal needle and you're punching through that leather just like this. So that is not an easy feat for any machine. Not an easy feat for any machine. But I think you'll be impressed with how Tammy and Ron's machine managed something like that. It is tough, but I think that this domestic 153.
That was easy. That was easy.
Will make it look easy. All right, let's take a look at this stitching. So we've got I'm rotating the camera up so I get better light coming down. I think that'll help. Here's our top stitching. And again, the top row is our first sew off through a single layer. The bottom row is our second sew off through 2 layers of this leather. Absolutely gorgeous. Unbelievably gorgeous. And no skip stitching. in spite of how difficult of a task that is to get through that leather. Look at that. Unbelievable. Well, it's not unbelievable. You just saw it on a live stream. You can't fake a live stream. You can't fake it. Unbelievable. Wow. Wow. See, that's why Monster Energy Drink wants to sponsor us, because I do the wow factor. Wow. Wow. Folks, that is drop dead gorgeous stitching. I don't care how you slice and dice it. Through all of that leather. Look at that. That's a lot of leather, folks. That's a lot of leather. Here's our lock stitching. We're only going to have the one row because we just went through those 2 layers just now. So there's our lock stitching, which is absolutely gorgeous too. I don't think I can make that stitch any more gorgeous. Don't you agree? That's an absolutely drop dead gorgeous lock stitch through about 12 to 14 ounces of leather. Wow. Wow. Holy mackerel. Look at that. I think we could end the live stream right now. If this domestic 153 hasn't proven itself at this point after going through something like this, if you're going through something like this and delivering stitch quality at that level, I don't know what else I can do. But we'll probably do at least one. Let me see where we're at. 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'm going to do 1 or 2 more sew offs because Susie made me aware. Susie is our Amazon expert shopper. I don't know a thing about Amazon. I know it's a big company, but Susie's our Amazon expert person. She said they were just running some sort of big sales or something like that. And then all the local retailers are dropping their prices to try to compete with the online sales that Amazon is getting, right? So whenever Susie gets another delivery from Amazon, we always save the paper because I like to sew on the Amazon packing parchment paper. Try saying that fast. Amazon packing parchment paper, Amazon packing parchment paper, Amazon packing parchment paper. Yeah, you say it real fast, you can spit on yourself and anyone else within distance of you. So why don't we sew some Amazon packing parchment paper, and then we'll sew in a circle before we wrap this up. So I've got this. Let me get a sip of tea real quick too. My throat is a little bit dry. All right. So I got this Amazon packing parchment paper. I'm starting with 2 layers over here, 2 layers over here. So I've got 4 layers. I'm going to fold it once. That gets me up to what, 8 layers, right? Somebody do the math for me because I don't do math. So that's 4 layers times 2 times 3. I think we'll do times 3. So what is that? 12 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper? I think it is. Yeah, I can cut off that little excess. So I think we have 12 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. I'm going to see if we can sew through that. I don't know if I did the math right or not. Oh, I noticed that Felicia just typed something and I did not measure it. So I wanted to measure it because they look real close, even though we went through twice as much leather. But the one that has the second layer, this one here on the bottom, is a little bit shorter in stitch length than the top one. Let me actually measure it for you so you can see. because they do look real close. So this is 1 inch. On our upper row, we got 1, 2, 3, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got, even on this leather, a single layer of leather on this upper row through a single layer of leather, we got 7 stitches per inch on this upper row. Now on the lower row where we went through the 2 layers, you can see that coming through the other side. We went through the 2 layers. We're going to be a little bit shorter than that, just a little bit. Get that 1 inch set up correctly. But it's going to be real close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only a difference of 1 stitch per inch. Here we did 7 stitches per inch through a single layer of genuine cowhide, about 4 to 5 ounces. On the bottom one, when we went through the 2 layers, we got 8 stitches per inch. That is unheard of. That's unheard of. That means the presser foot pressure, the feed dogs, the motor delivery, and everything else is running silky smooth, optimized. So we're getting little or no reduction in stitch length, even going through that additional leather. So Felicia's eyes were spot on. She looked at those 2 rows and she said, they look like they're identical. They nearly are identical. The top row through a single layer, 7 stitches per inch. The bottom row through 2 layers of leather, you can see that right there, 8 stitches per inch. This 153 is running better than a Swiss watch right now. And that's what the optimization process brings that I take these machines through. They run better than when they left the factory. I would guarantee you if you could buy a brand new domestic back in the day, it would not sew this well. Great observation, Felicia. Great observation. Very, very close. Okay, so now let's do Amazon packing parchment paper. Amazon packing parchment paper. Okay. I was just making sure there were no additional comments or questions that I needed to note. So now we're going to go through, I think I said 12 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. 12 layers, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll see if we can, keep this rolling. Keep this rolling as well as it is. All right, so here we go. 12 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. Here we go. Unbelievable how smooth this machine is. Oh my goodness gravy. Now, any of you that know anything about paper and how dense it is because of the pulp and everything else that factors into paper, going through 12 layers of this Amazon packing parchment paper is the equivalent of doing the leather sew-off we just did. Paper is incredibly hard to get through. And yet, take a look at this stitching. Here's our top stitching. Let me raise the camera up a little bit. Here's our top stitching. Unbelievable how gorgeous that is. That top stitch is just brag-worthy. It's spot on. Take a look at it. 12 layers. 12 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. Can you see the thickness of that? 12 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. And this domestic rotary Model 153 went through it like a hot knife through butter. Like a hot knife through butter. And it laid down absolutely drop-dead gorgeous top stitching. Absolutely drop-dead gorgeous top stitching. See that? turn over, look at the lock stitching. I love looking at lock stitching on paper because you can see that punch factor of what that needle is doing to displace that paper and pass through and create that stitch. Look at this. Unbelievable. That is okay. If we decide to work with Monster energy drinks, I'm just going to say that this is Monsterlicious. Monsterlicious. That's a hard thing to say. This is a Monsterlicious stitch. It's absolutely spot on. It's absolutely gorgeous in every way. The spacing, the formation, the stitch integrity, the stitch quality. It doesn't get any better than this. I'd like to see a featherweight try to do that because they talk about their perfect stitching. I would love to see a featherweight try to do this. I could do it on one of the featherweights that I optimized. I should clarify that. On a non-optimized featherweight, I would love to see somebody try to pull that off. 12 layers. 12 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. That is the thick of thick, folks. Let me throw that to the side. Another incredible sew-off by Tammy and Ron's Domestic 153. Unbelievable. The power of this machine just continues to stagger, doesn't it? Continues to stagger. Well, why don't we do, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a little bit of denim. I'll do a little bit of denim. And then we're going to do our final sew off in a circle. And then we'll wrap this up. I can still hear that. Susie's right. I can still hear that heavy equipment out front of the workshop right now. They're going up and down the road with a huge tractor cutting down, including cutting down Susie's flowers. We threw some wild flower seeds in the ditch across from our location, and they were coming up beautifully. Susie was admiring them. They're all gone now, honey. They're all gone. They chopped them down. So if you hear Susie step away from the live stream, she's probably out there with her handgun, waving it at the tractor saying, move on, leave my flowers alone. Oh, that's fun. Oh, goodness. I need a manicure. I don't get a manicure. Who is that? Somebody ban that person from the channel. I'm kidding. Don't ban them. I need a manicure. Do I really? I cut my nails really short. They look pretty good right now, actually. My cuticles aren't so great. But my nails are clean. See that? Somebody said they were putting out the fine silver. They were putting out the good silver. And I cleaned my nails too, so I was ready for the party. Yeah. Do men still get manicures? Is that a thing? Is it really? Men still get manicures? I don't know if it is or not. Road, what is it? 05206. Oh, yeah, a working man's hands for sure. I'll tell you, with all the stuff I do. But well, at any rate, maybe there are men that still get manicures, huh? I guess they are. Maybe they are. Okay, so we're going to do denim now. We'll do denim, and then we're going to move on and do our final sew-off to wrap this up. I did have some antique or vintage velvet. I've got some vintage velvet that I could have sewn. I've got some heavy-grade canvas as well. But I might just skip those because this machine has just been blowing it out of the water. I don't even know if I'll put these to use unless someone chimes in on the live stream and the live chat and says, Scott, I really want to see you sew that vintage velvet. I'll sew it for you. Even if you made a comment about me needing a manicure, ha. So, but no, we're family. And if you see that my nails need attention, let me know. You never know. All right. So I've got this heavy grade denim. I'm starting with 2 layers. I'm going to go ahead and give it a fold, get us up to 4 layers, 6 layers, And finally, 8 layers. I don't know if I can get this underneath the presser foot. Let me see if I can. 2 layers, 4 layers. Oh, I did that wrong. Wait. 2 layers, 4 layers, 6 layers, 8 layers. What do you think? Can we pull this off? I think with something like this, with this many layers, even though the machine is, even though the machine is feeding the material beautifully on every sew off we've done, even on those 2 layers of leather, we only lost 1 stitch per inch. 6 versus 7 going through those 2 layers of leather. I think we're going to lose stitches on this as far as the stitches per inch. I think we might drop all the way, we might go all the way up to like 8 to 10 stitches per inch, even on the longest setting, but we'll see. So I'm gonna see if I can fit all of this underneath the presser foot. I don't know if we can or not. I think we can. It's a little snug right there. So I'm gonna use that hyperextension, get that into place. So here we've got 8 layers of denim. I don't know if I've done 8 layers of denim for a while, to be honest with you. I don't know that I've done 8 layers of denim. But I know that I could not have gotten it underneath the presser foot without using that hyperextension, taking that presser foot lever and pushing it out of its normal range of motion to get that extra clearance that I needed. So I'm going to drop that presser foot now. I'm going to drop that down. And I'm also going to go up top and increase our presser foot pressure even higher than it is. Because we've got 8 layers of denim. We're going to see if we can preserve as many of those stitches per inch as we can. I'm going to give it about 2 to 3 turns. So whatever we get now is what we get. Whatever we get now is what we get. Hey, I don't know who Road is. I don't know who Road 05206 is. No offense taken at all. No offense taken at all. It's a cute comment to make, especially for a guy that I work with my hands all day long. No offense taken. When I said one of the moderators should ban you from the channel, I was joking. Joking. That's a totally innocent, fun, playful comment to make, especially about a guy. So, but I should consider that because sometimes in the wintertime, my cuticles will develop kind of a rawness around the edges and they'll bleed a little bit even when it gets colder out. So maybe I need to look at a manicure, but I don't know if Susie says I'm like a man's man. So I don't know if Susie will let her man's man get a manicure or not. I don't know. That's up to the wife. I'll leave that up to her, but it's a great comment. It's a fun comment. It's a playful comment. And again, no offense taken at all. No offense taken. All right. So we're going to try 8 layers of heavy grade denim. I did not test this off camera. I truly did not. The only sew-offs I did off camera, I'll show you right here, was this right here. Just 2 layers of denim. I did 2 layers of denim when I got done adjusting the machine. So we're going to take this 4 times the thickness of what I tested off camera. 4 times the thickness with 8 layers of denim. We'll see what happens. I don't think I'll break the needle. The Schmetz needles are built really, really well, but you never know. You never know. And I think I'll give us a little bit of an edge. I'm going to use the big boy clips here. See if I can hold this denim together. Reasonably hold it together. All right, so I got 3 clips on there trying to hold these 8 layers of denim together. Y'all keep your fingers crossed and your toes tapping. Fingers, toes, and everything crossed and tapping. We're going to give it a try. 8 layers of heavy grade denim, okay, on this domestic model 153. I've got to see if I got my foot controller within reach. I should show you this foot controller too, just for kicks and giggles. Hold on a second. This is a foot controller I'm using right here. That's kind of cool, isn't it? And this foot controller was actually made in my hometown where I grew up as a boy. This foot controller was made in Racine, Wisconsin. Racine, Wisconsin. Yep. Okay, so 8 layers of denim. Let's see what we get. Let's see what we get and not throw a fit. All right, here we go. This will be interesting. I barely had the foot controller pressed down, barely had it pushed down through all of that denim. And my prediction was right. We are going to get fewer stitches per inch, but we're not just looking at the number of stitches per inch because you're feeding a lot of material right here. 8 layers of denim. But we're also going to want to look at the quality and the caliber and how we maintained the tension factor. The tension factor is a big deal when you're going through this much denim. And you've got a Schmetz needle that's world class, but it's getting tired. I've done a lot of off-camera sewing with this needle. I've done a lot of on-camera sewing with this needle. And it's starting to say, yeah, I know I'm a Schmetz. I know, but I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired, buddy. Yeah, very, very nice stitching. Let's look at the top stitching first. And then we'll do some measurements so we can see how many stitches per inch we got through 8 layers of denim. Okay? We'll look at it like this. I think it'll be easier. Top stitching. Those are really, really nice looking stitches, folks. Really nice looking stitches. But you can see they're noticeably smaller, even though we have it set at the longest length right now. Those are gorgeous, gorgeous stitches. Gorgeous stitches through that much denim. Oh my goodness gravy. Oh my goodness gravy. Let's take a look at our lock stitching. How do we do on lock stitching with a tiring universal 9014 needle going through 8 layers of denim? 8 layers of denim. Here's our lock stitching. Come on, camera. All right, let's go like that. Also beautiful lock stitching as well. The tension factor is not an issue. The spacing, the formation of the stitching is spot on. Beautiful lock stitching as well. Through 8 layers of denim, folks. 8 layers of denim. So there's our lock stitching. See if I can show it to you that way. That's what we just went through right there. Look at that. That's a monsterlicious sew off is what that is. 8 layers of denim. And there's our top stitching as well. Folks, I don't think it gets much better than that. Is the rotary sewing machine powerful? When it's optimized, it will blow your socks off. It will blow your socks right off. Not to mention lay down a drop dead gorgeous stitch too. There's our lock stitching again on the back. Wow. That's all I'm going to say is wow. So the sew-offs we did on this live stream today to showcase this Model 153 that came with a lot of electrical motor issues and now is delivering the goods like you can't even imagine. We went through 8 layers of denim. We just did that right now. We went through 12 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. We went through 2 layers of slippery snakeskin material with a backing. We went through cotton, no big deal, but it laid down drop dead gorgeous stitching. Oh, and then I mentioned that we went through 12 to 14 ounces of leather as well. So our sew off sandwich, without even sewing in a circle, looks like that already. And this was done live. You can't fake live. I don't know how to fake live. What happens, happens. And this domestic model 153, if you've been shopping for another machine to add to your collection, I think you're probably looking at a domestic right about now. Not to mention, you can always have a machine in your sewing suite where when you have guests or friends that come, you can say, guess what? I put out the good silver for you, and you can direct them to your domestic model 153, the silver plated machine, the only one in the world that I know that ever silver plated a machine. So I'm incredibly proud of the work that I do. No one else does what I do in the world. And the evidence, the proof in the pudding is when you put a machine like this underneath the bright lights, you have an audience of almost 1,500 people, witnesses, 1,500 witnesses almost, that will then tell the story of what they saw. Well, what you saw today is excellence at a new level. It doesn't get any better than this. And now we're going to wrap it up with some fun music. I'm going to sew in a circle on this Italian leather. And I hope you met some new friends today. I hope you made some new acquaintances. I hope you did. And I hope you feel welcome. That's the big deal at Cow Country. We want everybody that comes to feel welcome. We want you to step away and feel sad because you're like, I feel sad because the live stream is over. Yeah, it ran a long time, but time passes so quick when we're together as the family, right? It passes quick. And you're like, when is the next live stream? We haven't seen Scott for a while. When is the next live stream? Are we going to pop up in Susie's? Are we going to pop up in Susie's sewing suite again? And she's going to show us another machine? That's family. You love getting together. You sometimes rub elbows with family a little bit, but you always enjoy each other's company. It's a blessing, isn't it? It's a blessing to have what we have. And I'm grateful to YouTube for having a format like this that we can come together under. They do a good job. They manage us well. They give us incentives to do what we do as posters, as creators. And they bring people together from around the world. If you visit our YouTube channel, please do. If you visit our YouTube channel and click on the About, you'll see that we are coming up closely to 5 million unique visitors that watch videos on this channel. I'm going to say it again. Almost 5 million people from 126 countries around the world. Never, ever did I see that happening back in 2009 when I started this journey on YouTube. Never saw it coming. So thank you to all of you that make this possible. Thank you to the moderators for taking such good care of the family. And if the moderators don't object, Kathy King has been a faithful friend of ours. Kathy King has been a follower of ours. She's been a fan of ours. She's been a fellow teacher of ours. She's been a fellow student of ours. And I would like to spontaneously, which maybe that spontaneity is why Monster Energy Drink wants to sponsor us as well. Maybe that spontaneity is why I'd like to appoint Kathy as part of the leadership team and put her in as a moderator while this live stream is still going. If any leaders object, let me know. Otherwise, forever keep your peace, because I'm going to do it right now. So the next time you see Kathy King type something in the live chat, you're going to notice that there's a little wrench or a bar next to her name because she's now part of the leadership team, which also means, and I didn't share this with anyone, I did not share this with anyone, but recently Susie and I added another Ring camera off of our deck facing the mountain range and opening up a view to seeing bear and coyotes and deer and foxes and everything right in our backyard up here in the mountains. Only the leadership team has access to that camera. So I'm going to ask Susie if she'll connect with Kathy King now that she's officially part of the leadership team, and ask her if she'll share her email. And then we will send a private invitation for Kathy King to be able to view off of our deck as well the mountain ranges, the clouds. We're actually above the clouds, and all of the critters that come into the yard as well. Some of you may have seen that hour-long video that I shot last year of the mother bear and the 3 cubs right in our backyard. That's what the leadership team can view anytime they want. They just click on it, say go live, and if Susie and I are sitting out on the deck, they can talk to us through the camera. That's the advantage of dedication and loyalty and getting appointed to the leadership team, is VIP access even here at our private residence and our workshop. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's cool. Yeah. All right. So totally awesome possum. I love that person. I don't even know who they are, and I love them because possums are an amazing critter. They are. They're an amazing critter. All right. I'm going to put on some music. God bless you all. Thank you to the newest leader of our team, Kathy King. I believe, I may be wrong, but I think she's from the South, somewhere in Florida, maybe. But it's great to have Kathy on the team. Moderators can't always make it. Just like today, Tim and Teresa had to step away. And we always need to have somebody kind of watching the family, making sure that we're safe. We've had people jump into our live stream and post some inappropriate things. That's where the moderators come in to protect the family, because you never know. You might have one of your grandkids watching a live stream with you. You might have one of your children in the live stream with you. You might have a neighbor kid in the live stream watching it with you when we present a certain machine. We never want to have a situation where one of those little ones or any of us have to be exposed to the junk. And that's what the moderators do, is they protect and watch out for the family. Okay? All right, let me get some music and we'll wrap up this live stream. Oh, it's not a wrench anymore. Now it's like a shield. I thought it was a wrench. Wasn't it a wrench before for moderators? Didn't it used to be a wrench, and now they've got it looks like a police shield or something like that, or a security badge. Is that a security badge? I think it is. I think that is. Yeah. Yeah. Moderators have like a badge now, like they're part of they are security, aren't they? They are security. That's well done, YouTube. Well done. A badge makes a lot more sense than a wrench. Yeah, makes a lot more sense. All right, let me pick out some music and we'll wrap this up. Hold on just a second, y'all. I'm going to put on some music other than like fancy music. I'll put on something else fun. Yeah, we'll put on a little bit of dance music. Why not? A little bit of dance music. All right, we'll see you again, y'all. God bless, and enjoy the rest of your day. That's out of focus. Why is that out of focus? There we go. I was going to end with music, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. All right. Take care, everybody. God bless. See ya.